see it as a victory for separatism, a precedent that any strong, defiant voice can force concessions from the state. To those who hold power, that perception alone could shake confidence in their leadership. So, the decision to keep him detained becomes a statement, a show of authority meant to remind everyone that the state, not any individual or group, holds the ultimate power. But politics alone doesn't explain it all. Security fears play a major role. The government believes that Kanu's release could ignite fresh unrest in the southeast, where his name still commands intense loyalty. Over the years, violent incidents and clashes between security forces and pro-Biafra supporters have left scars in communities and raised alarms in Abuja. Whether those incidents are directly tied to Kanu or not, the perception remains that his influence can quickly transform peaceful protests into large-scale confrontations. For security agencies, that's a nightmare scenario. They see his detention as a way to contain a volatile situation, believing that keeping him out of circulation maintains a fragile calm. But it's a double-edged sword. The longer he stays detained, the more anger festers. What was once a political movement has, in some ways, turned into a symbol of resistance against perceived oppression. Every court delay, every failed negotiation deepens the resentment and widens the distance between the southeast and the rest of the country. People begin to see his continued detention not as justice but as targeted suppression, and that feeling feeds into an even larger narrative of exclusion. This brings us to the deeper regional dynamics, the emotional heart of the issue. The Southeast has a long and painful history with the idea of marginalization. Since the end of the Biafran War, generations have grown up with the belief that the region has been politically sidelined and economically neglected. So when someone like Kanu rises and speaks directly to that pain, he becomes more than a man, he becomes a voice that echoes decades of frustration. His arrest and prolonged detention reinforce the very sentiments he once capitalized on. For many in the region, it feels like history repeating itself, the same cycle of suppression, silence, and resistance. And this cycle doesn't just affect the Southeast, it ripples across the country. It deepens mistrust, stirs old wounds, and challenges the idea of one unified Nigeria. There's also a psychological layer to all this, the feeling of selective justice. When people see others, even those accused of grave crimes like terrorism, being released or granted amnesty while Kanu remains behind bars, it fuels the belief that the system is biased. It creates the impression that justice depends not on the law but on politics. This perception erodes faith in the government and weakens the very unity the country is trying to protect. Beyond Nigeria's borders, the situation carries international weight. Kanu's dual citizenship and the controversies